Sounds of Stadia podcast, your weekly podcast where we round up all the Stadia and gaming news that goes on the world and brings it to you condensed into a lovely hour or so long show. Thanks for joining myself, Chris, and my lovely co-hosts in the queues once again. To my left, his right, Richie's head, we've got Mr. Tom, the techie teacher himself, and right below him, we've got the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie, currently running on about 2 hours sleep. Richie, how the hell are you two?
And I just punched my microphone, so it's a good start to the show.
It's going to be one of them, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's going to get a little silly, to be honest.
There's a funny vibe going on. But yeah.
Not sleeping too much caffeine. Let's see what happens.
Shit's going to get crazy. But yes, as I mentioned, this is the Sounds of Stadia podcast, episode number 48. Thank you for stopping by. If you are new to the channel, like I said, we bring you a weekly Stadia podcast, condensing all the news down by my lovely co-host and myself. We've had a busy week in Stadia news. We've had games come out, games not come out, games go back out. In and amongst, we've also had some new title announcements, some big DC news. Whether it pertains to Stadia or not, we're going to talk about it because we've got our fingers, toes, and everything else crossed that it will come to Stadia. We've also got some more stuff about the Apple conundrum that's currently going on and some new game releases too. So we will be getting to that with the show. Don't forget to give the video a like and give the channel a subscribe down below so you are kept in the loop with everything, and follow us on all of our social media feeds for shits and giggles. Gentlemen, housekeeping.
Yes.
Housekeeping.
Okay.
Yeah.
To start off with,
Housekeeping.
Monster
Got clean
Boy.
house from time to time.
Monster Boy is kicking the shit out of me.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Oh, this week, this week's episode, part 8, I was not in a good place with it. I hadn't played it for over a week, so I was trying to get a recording in the bag. It was like midnight. I did it after our Strange Brigade stream, Richie. So I was tired. It was dark. It was dark in the game as well. I couldn't remember where I was, what I was doing. I was underwater, which isn't a great place to wake up underwater.
And also he was playing the game.
And also I was playing the game. I don't know, Tom, you finished it. That part catch you off guard?
It makes for an interesting video, if anything. It's very you sort of lose yourself very quickly in that space, and I can definitely see like where the frustration comes from. Like, having been through it, I get it, completely get it.
It was the moment I think I'd searched around in the dark for so long and then ended up thinking I'd found a different way out. And then after getting there, I realised it was the same place I'd ended last week's episode on, like 10 minutes in. And I'd just gone the wrong way because there's no point of reference for which direction. There's no hints or tips.
No.
But yeah, go check that out. It's fun if you're happy to watch me get angry and frustrated and stressed all at the same time. Go check that out.
I actually need to watch it. Yeah. I think I'm on about episode 4 at the moment. I think I might just spend my afternoon playing Football Manager and binging Monster Boy playthrough.
It gets there. We also have Strange Brigade, myself, Richie, and some people from the Stadia community. Barry and Dave jumped in with us as well this week and lent us a massive hand. Yeah, MVPs helped us out through some Strange Brigade. We've been hosting Thursday night streams every week with community and such, so head on over this Thursday as well, where we are most likely going to be continuing our Strange Brigade journey. We are about 2/3 of the way through, so hopefully we'll get that one ticked off and in the bag. But by all means, if you've got Strange Brigade, if you are a pro subscriber, jump in, check it out, join us. You could be another member of the Strange Brigade. Strange Brigade. Post show went up last week as well, gents. We talked about what games we wanted to see make the move to Stadia, which links into our first news story actually. And we had a cute little puppy join us as well. So if you're a fan of dogs and all things fluffy, like Tom's hair, go check that out. All in their bag on the YouTube channel for you.
Thanks for that, Chris. Thanks for that.
It just looks so perfectly swooshed today. When I was thinking of things cute and fluffy.
I couldn't really be bothered today. It's just one of those days where you just sort of go, I'm getting it cut next week, so I just thought, let's go au natural.
Au natural indeed. Kicking off the show then, Richie, we've got a little retcon ritual from Richie's retcon ritual corner to recap on last week. When we were speaking about all the Epic and Apple stuff, we may have made a slight mistake with shares.
Yeah, well, I don't think we necessarily made a mistake. We just didn't clarify it. So we were talking about how much cut the developers take, the platform holders take from when the sales on their platform, like specifically like Google and Apple. And I think it was me actually who pointed out that actually Epic has the same practice, but we didn't actually go into the numbers. just as a point of clarity, Kelper in the YouTube comments pointed out that Apple and Google do charge a 30% tax, basically fee of it, where Epic only charges 12. So it's quite a significant drop off. So the rest of the money goes to the developers and publishers, etc.
Right, that's how Epic started getting people moving over to the store, isn't it? They've took less of a cut, so developers and stuff are more likely to go there first because they get more money. So it makes perfect sense, just undercutting your competition. So thanks for clarifying that in the comment section. We do try and keep things as factual as we can, but at the end of the day, we are just three British fools trying to bring you some Stadia news stories. So thanks for helping us out, keeping us honest and straightforward. By all means, leave a comment if we screw up in the future too. About anything, just let us know. We'll take it. We'll take it with constructive criticism and a smile. This is three cheesy, terrible smiles for audio listeners out there. Visual smile.
Sorry.
But yes, let's get into the thick of it, gentlemen. Tom, would you like to kick us off with?
I think you might be talking about the super sexy special Stadia story segment, aka the news.
I wasn't. I was really talking about that. There's no other segments we go into. If anything, the show could actually just be called the news because it's what we spend the most of the time. But yes, it is the news, and hot off the press from yesterday, from the DC Fandom event, which, by the way, didn't quite vibe with the digital dome that they portrayed. If you've not checked it out, definitely head over and check out the DC YouTube channels and stuff. They decided to get all of their employees on a big green screen and put them in this kind of fictional sports arena dome, which in theory I could see why they thought it would work. They did really weird things with the sizing of all the people. I think at one point they had Gal Gadot and Chris Pine, everyone on the big screen talking about Wonder Woman, and they had just these tiny little presenters who looked like ants just at the bottom of the screen, and it was kind of like, I would have rather just watched
the scaling was out or something.
Yeah, but it feels like they did it on purpose. Like you're watching it on a big sports board, and for better or for worse, it was just a bit odd to watch stuff be delivered in that medium, whereas we're so used to just your traditional, just it could have just zoomed in on Gal Gadot, cut back to the co-host, or did a split screen, but
maybe they're doing that thing that they do in anime where like more powerful characters are just drawn bigger.
Maybe, yeah. Giant Wonder Woman in tiny presenter.
But, you are nothing to me, mortal.
But that does bring us, as I mentioned, to our first story of the week. We've got everything crossed that this is going to make its way to Stadia. We've said on previous episodes that there was a WB logo up on the stage with Phil Harrison way back when. It will be over a year ago when they announced their partners for Stadia. We are yet to see any fruit from this relationship drop off the tree as of yet. So, hopefully, again, I hope I'm right in thinking that the games coming from WB going forward will be making their way across to Stadia. So we got two big DC announcements. First up, we got to see Gotham Knights from WB Montreal, which are the developers who did Arkham Origins. They basically brought us out a gameplay teaser trailer of some co-op footage, and essentially in the game you take place in Gotham City. Batman is no longer with us, or Bruce Wayne is no longer with us, and you are part of a 4-person team. It was Robin, Batgirl, Nightwing, and Red Hood, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's right.
And you basically take the streets of Gotham to kick crime in the ass and fight for Batman's justice, I guess. You both have a chance to check this trailer out.
I have briefly watched it, but I'm a little behind on my news this week.
Is that because you're hungover and tired?
Yep.
I mean, what we've got to respect here is that the footage they showed us is only of pre-alpha gameplay, so it's not quite, it's one of these things that we see once again. It's like an E3 pre-demo, really. It's not representative of the final product, but again, it's pretty cool. It's going to be very interesting to have a Gotham set game that's not centered around playing as Batman and playing as, I don't want to call them the lesser known characters, but they're the ones who often don't get the focus. Usually, they're more like the sidekicks.
I mean,
there's two incarnations of Robin.
Yeah,
the sidekick.
Yeah.
Maybe they should get smaller as well, Richie, as the good, so you get to a genuine size of a Robin. So we saw some gameplay. again, I think when you're saying there about pre-alpha footage, I think that art style they've always gone for from the Rocksteady games with Gotham is I've held my hand up many times and said the Arkham games still hold up to this day because of that almost cartoon aesthetic they've put on everything. Even with it being pre-alpha, I don't think this will get any shit about looking bad in comparison to what Halo did because they're going for totally different stylized approaches. That didn't cross my mind once, how it looked. The biggest thing,
and unlike Halo, they're not doing lots of close-up shots of terrible faces.
That is true. But in regards to the actual game itself, I'm excited for it. It looks interesting. It looks fun. They did say you could play it as single player or co-op. So essentially, it looks like you can play. You'll have 2 characters in any party at any given time, and by the looks of it, you can kind of interchange between who you play as. Or if you are playing with a friend, you can just basically take a character each and swap them out. So there might be like 2 stories maybe going on at once, and they converge for certain missions. It does give me Avengers vibes from the upcoming Square Enix Avengers game, but you're obviously playing as different heroes from a different franchise. Disappointed you don't get to play as Batman.
It swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Yeah.
Do we think he's dead? Really?
Ooh, I mean, that's what they allure to, isn't it? But it'll be interesting if they throw that in as a killer plot twist.
That could be like a big part of the story arc, like finding out what happened to Bruce Wayne. It could be a case of he's presumed dead.
Yeah, so we should point out as well is in the later part of the trailer, it does tease the Court of Owls as well. There is some villains show up with owl masks, and it shows you kind of all their cages strung up in their lair. So that's been teased for some time. The Court of Owls storyline from the comic book series. It looks like that's going to play a central part, so my guess is you're going to have to kind of break their secret shadowy crime syndicate thing they've got going on, ruling Gotham from behind the shadows. Again, like I said, Batman, I feel like he has to be a playable character. It's almost similar in vein to the Avengers game where they have Captain America front and centre of the team, but apparently he dies. You're telling me I'm going to play that whole Avengers game without being the usual leader of the Avengers, even though he's got a move set, he's got his skills, he's got the different variation suits. You can't tell me I'm only going to play as him for like a 10-minute window and then he's out for good. There's got to be something going on. I know they're not putting it on the marketing material. My guess is once the game's out and the storyline for both these games is kind of like a bit more known, you'll see memes and stuff about and news articles about Batman's in it.
I think there's going to be a lot of speculation of Batman, but I kind of hope that they don't have Batman. I think Bruce Wayne should be in it, but I don't necessarily think you need him as a playable character as long as the other characters play well. Because these are well-established characters within the DC lore, have rich backing. So
true.
I don't think they often get get enough time in the limelight as well. They usually get overshadowed by the Bat.
Yeah,
really.
It's because they're designated as sidekicks, so they're always going to be overshadowed by Batman, which is kind of why I hope he's not in there.
Give them the 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah, give the character room to breathe. I'd almost like to see, basically, as I mentioned, maybe part of the story arc is the hunt for finding out what happened to Batman, what happened to Bruce Wayne, and maybe you find him just like an older Bruce Wayne. He can't fight, but becomes almost like a mentor figure or something.
Like the Beyond TV series.
I almost feel like while they're going with, I like the idea of them going with the Gotham Knights. I almost feel like this type of game and looking at that sort of like Avengers-esque approach could lend itself well to like the Titans per se, in a way, as having that sort of dynamic rather than making it more so, specifically characters from the should we say like the Batman universe. I don't know how to exactly classify it, but these are obviously all directly related to Batman in some way. Whereas you could sort of like diversify a little bit further and go a little bit further afield and look at characters who could be included. Like you could look. I don't want to say Justice League because I feel like Justice League then you start to pull main tier characters, but it's almost like your lesser known X-Men-esque or the DC equivalent like the Titans. Yeah. I feel like that could be quite
I almost feel like this could be like the next generation. It's like it's time for the next generation to take over, sort of thing, within the law of the world as it stands.
Ooh. Yeah, it's an interesting one in terms of characters. What you've alluded to there, Tom, because in my opinion, there's a lot of DC characters I would love to see in games, and hopefully, this similar to Avengers, they're going to have some kind of future roadmap with potentially additional characters. I've said after playing the Arkham games originally, back when Arrow started off on TV, Green Arrow would make a phenomenal game. Like if you set it in a world like Gotham, like how many games now have archery as their like kind of main outlet for weapon choices, and it's for like Tomb Raider was fantastic. I think with I'm always one who picks the bow in games. You've got a stealth element. I just think like someone like the Green Arrow would fit into this kind of crew. Very good, but it is Gotham Knights, so how specific they're going to keep it at Gotham and away from Starling City or Star City.
Yeah. And
the Flash again, and there's such a wealth of characters.
There's room for DLC, for that, or a new game entirely. Like,
interesting.
We'll see.
It's just difficult when you. I say it's difficult. There's so much choice there when you pick an IP. And a long established IP that has so many characters through like the decades that it's been running, really, of sort of like isolating and going like, where do we tell the next story? Where do we go next? What can we do with this story? And how does that develop from the experiences that gamers or people who are just fans of this genuinely have already? And I think by having it close to Batman, I can see where they're trying to go with this. And it does look a fantastic game. I just hope that the story sort of like when it gets fleshed out and as you go through it, that it does almost lead on to trying to build that hype to get people excited again for these franchises and for trying to see, more of these characters, as well as the main protagonists, more than just Batman, but also almost potentially like getting these characters their own opportunities to being able to fully flesh themselves out into getting movie spin-offs, TV series, games, and so on as well.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
It does beg the question how much this is kind of DC's overarching focus on trying to ramp up that whole world, and not the movie, the TV show aside, and like the comics, like trying to get it all to come to this big DC fandom essentially where everything is in one place. And you're right, Tom. It feeds into other mediums like quite easily. So is this game a pedestal for them then now to branch out into their own shows? We've seen Batgirl get her own TV show on from the it's like the same people who do Arrow and Flash and what's it called, the spin-off one with all the Legends of Tomorrow as well, which I did watch the first 2 seasons of that. That's a thing still going, I believe. But yeah, we saw that branch out there, so it is interesting to see what goes behind the scenes with, is this DC's agenda, is this what WB wanted to work on? Is this game going to even be regarded as part of the Arkhamverse? Because we've seen Rocksteady totally ignore the Origins game, which they made previously.
Well, that was actually what I was going to ask you, Chris. Do you think this is like a direct sequel to, was it Arkham Knight, the last one?
Arkham Knight was. They've said the game we're going to talk about in a short while as well, the Justice League Suicide Squad game, they've said that is a continuation of the Arkhamverse. So there will be story beats that happen in that game that do follow on from the events of Gotham and Arkham Knight. How that plays into this, I haven't read anywhere they've clarified, but you would like to think they're probably trying to keep this separate. If this seems to be their Avengers ever moving live, I don't want to say game as a service, but it seems to be the one, the way you have your friends playing, it's co-op. By the looks of it, the fighting has XP. I noticed the villains have more health bars now, as opposed to when you're Batman, you beat them up and you take them down, whereas it looks on this one like they've got distinctive health. And it does say in the some of the articles as well, you work as a team and there's character progression, and that the enemies level scale with you, so that shows that if you go back to a previous thingied area, they're gonna be a lot more difficult to take down, which is why I'm getting Avengers vibes quite heavily from this. Big roster, enemies, but Mr. Freeze does show up in the trailer as well, so they've got A-list Batman villain, not quite Arnold Schwarzenegger. Rocking
nice to meet you.
What killed the dinosaurs? What does he say for that one?
The Ice Age.
I'll subdue to the cooler.
Chill.
I'm leaving. Sorry, I can't do it.
Yeah, that was a moment in time. Arnold Schwarzenegger as Victor Freeze himself. What a casting call that was. Wow. Jim Carrey as the Riddler. Wow. It's when you look back, there's some great choices. Danny DeVito as the Penguin. Such great choices. They just really didn't make true on them, unfortunately, with George Clooney.
The problem is, they had about 4 or 5 villains in that film.
It was, yeah. It's definitely the first. They did it well before Marvel did. Forget Avengers. We had all those Batman villains on the one screen at the same time with a bat credit card to boot as well. And some bat nipples. Let's not forget the bat nipples. But
who could
indeed. So that was the first game we got announced from DC Fandom. Again, excited by it. I'm hoping there's potential to play as Batman. Being a Batman fan, I'd like to see it there. But the other game they then moved on to and announced, in and amongst some new movie trailer reveals, was from Rocksteady, so from the Arkham game creators. After many, many years, I think we said last week, Arkham Knight was the last one to come out in 20... Did we say 15 or 16? I know we clarified it last week.
2015.
Yeah, so this game has been slated to come out in 2022, with the Gotham Knights game scheduled for 2021. So another year. So that will make it a long time since we had Arkham Knight. And I know there's been rumours behind the scenes that they've had to stop starting different projects. We didn't know whether they were doing a Batman, a Superman, Justice League game. And then there was rumoured to be doing a Harry Potter game, which they still may be working on. They may have split the studio into two, which is quite a common thing to happen as well with big size studios. But we got a teaser trailer or reveal trailer. It wasn't in-game. It was just a cinematic one. It is Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. We had the title leak, I think, last week, or it was teased last week with the head target on Batman, on Superman's head. Sorry, we got a big reveal. It shows you Harley Quinn, King Shark. It's going to be Tom's favourite, King Shark. I can tell already. Captain Boomerang, and Deadshot himself as well. Not Will Smith, but it was Deadshot. And they're basically rocking through sun-baked Metropolis. And they're jumping from rooftops, killing some generic bad guys who have kind of purple glow to them. And Superman basically shows up when they hunt the target, and Superman is not looking well. He's got purple eyes. He fries a guy to death using his laser vision. And he's the Suicide Squad's target, as the game suggested, is Kill the Justice League. So we didn't see any gameplay. We saw some witty banter between the characters, some funny Australian slang being flung around, which I'm sure makes every Australian cringe out there. I've seen a few comments going like, how have they not got an Australian accent nailed by 2022? But then again, we laughed last week about Strange Brigade and the 1930s British accent.
It grows on you, though.
It does. And I think Penguin is British. I believe Nolan North voiced him of course, because he voices everyone in the Arkham games originally, and he was a Cockney Londoner, as with everyone else who was British. But we didn't see gameplay. However, this is a different game. This one, as I mentioned, does follow on from the Arkham games, and it looks like we follow Amanda Waller's Suicide Squad on a mission to kill the Justice League. What do we think of this one then, in comparison to Gotham Knights?
It's hard to know. We don't really know what the game is yet, to be honest.
It is hard to say. I sort of feel like it's probably going to be a very similar style game.
Yeah.
Maybe more so similar to, I don't know, maybe because it's a Rocksteady game, maybe it's going to be a little bit more like... Actually, do you know what? No, considering the characters, I was going to say it's going to feel a little bit more like the Arkham games, but I don't think it will be. I think it'll be a stretch away from that and a bit more of a feel of something like the Avengers, the sort of like co-op-esque, up to four players at a time, strolling through areas, hunting targets, killing random cronies, collecting collectibles. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be that sort of game. Kind of excited. I say I'm excited for it. It's a game that'll be on the list for sure.
So one thing we do know is you can actually switch between the characters at will. So I'm assuming that's more if you're playing in single player. So it's probably more party based rather than pick your load out, jump in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so it has been listed as like an online co-op game, but you can't. They've already came out. The directors came out and said it can be played entirely single player or multiplayer if you wish to. And like I said, it does carry the story threads of the Arkham series over into this one. Without seeing gameplay, it's hard to kind of visualize what it is.
Yeah,
I don't know how you two feel about it, but are these games too similar? That's what my
thought is. Yeah,
they do seem very close. To be honest.
Yeah, the read on it is we've got one game where you play as Batman's team and one game where you play as some kind of Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
but without
like
seeing gameplay,
based action, probably action games that have you can either play a single player, co-op, online. It's like. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So imagine if this ultimately leads up to some sort of crossover between them as well.
I mean, it could if they'd acknowledged WB Montreal's work. They could be part of the same universe. But actually, funny you should mention that because the continuation of the Arkhamverse is in Arkham Origins. Deadshot was a villain you fought, and he was not the same Deadshot we see in this game. So they are either blatantly just ignoring Arkham Origins once again because Deadshot's in the Suicide Squad game as a different character, but he's named the same, so it's not the same continuation there on that front. It does beg the question though. DC has a huge agenda for pushing Suicide Squad, right? They've got a new movie reboot coming out with James Gunn of Guardians of the Galaxy fame, and now we've got another game as well.
The problem I have is they're just trying to jump straight to Suicide Squad. Well, I feel if you look at what Marvel did with the MCU for like the main cast, they introduced them one at a time before they had the big ensemble. So you already knew the characters in that universe. DC just seemed to jump straight into the end game. Like,
I've got to be honest with you, though. I don't really see myself feeling overexcited about going to watch a Captain Boomerang movie or a King Shark movie. So
yeah, but there's ways to do it. It's like we did things like Falcon was introduced through a Captain America movie. True. So it's thinking about, okay, we don't think this character can hold his own movie. Maybe we're teaming up with Deadshot or something.
Yeah, it's obviously it's a different. It's not
ways.
Quite apples to oranges. And again, there's always going to be comparisons with Marvel. But in relation to the game, we have seen some of these characters before. Like I said, Harley Quinn's been very prominent in all the Arkham games as obviously the Joker's #1 sidekick. But again, we're going to fight the Justice League rather than play as them. That's the thing that's got me. If they're making a game with Superman and supposedly by the name we may see Aquaman show up, we may see Batman in this game and not in the Gotham Knights game. As a fan, I want to play as them, not the Suicide Squad. I don't want to play as Harley Quinn with a mallet. I don't want to play as Captain Boomerang in a shark with a machine gun. Like, it's cool, don't get me wrong.
I don't know. I think Captain Boomerang could be fun.
Yeah, I mean, again, the premise of the game has me excited. My big takeaway though from both of these after watching both trailers, I've been waiting 7 years nearly for another Batman game, and I haven't got one. And it came out at a DC event, and I've got 2 games now where I'm not playing as Batman. I was hoping for more of that single-player Arkham story. My worry is we've got 2 massive games on our plate here, and they're both online, shared universes with. I don't know. It's not what I wanted. Like, I'm excited for both games, but as an Arkham fan, I wanted another Arkham game. And I don't feel like I'm getting it. I wonder if
the big difference between them is Gotham Knights going to be continually supported, where is Suicide Squad is just kind of one and done, here's your game. Maybe have like a DLC story rather than have a perpetual world sort of thing.
I sort of get where you're coming from, Chris. I know you're a much bigger diehard fan of the DC franchise than someone like myself, who is arguably far more Marvel than DC. I dabble in DC. I enjoy like the general lore and the general concepts around it. So I do understand that with Batman being sort of like one of those linchpin characters who basically is representative of DC in general, and with the Arkham games being so prominent as essentially, let's be honest, they're probably the most successful titles representative of DC in the gaming industry as well.
Superheroes compared to until Spider-Man. They were the benchmark for a superhero.
They were the echelon essentially. Like, as you say, they were the pinnacle of what you had to strive to achieve. So I understand your sort of like disarray about like your feelings. There's a little bit of a weird discourse going on here. I sort of get.
Yeah. I think it probably might be mitigated a bit if they focused on a single character from like the main like character list. If it was like Green Arrow or someone's like, we're done with Batman, but we're going to continue the story this well by we're going to go to Star City. You're going to play as Green Arrow, and it's going to reference the events of the Arkham series.
Yeah, I almost sort of feel like game developers, well, I can't jump on the bandwagon of really saying like they don't listen to us, because that's clearly not true.
Yeah.
But it almost seems like that the focus has been so far detached from the single player experience now that everything has to be centered around multiplayer or like having the ability to being able to co-op with your friends and so on. And I feel like by focusing so heavily on that we lose that storytelling core of what a good game really is. And I worry that with these that we're going to lose that.
Yeah, the more features you put into the game, the more dilute the individual features come. That's just the brilliant thing of a single player story based game where you're focusing on one character predominantly, is you can just fully experience a game as that character. When you've got 4 or 5 characters and you got always going back to like a world map where I'm going to play through this mission. The story, I think, sometimes gets a bit fragmented.
The problem from there as well stems that the more characters that you focus on in a multiplayer game, the more their stories are going to get washed out as well. So you don't actually even get to build those characters in any way whatsoever.
It's in terms of gameplay as well. The more the gameplay, the less depth to the character you actually get.
Yeah.
It's definitely one that's got me thinking or feeling, like you said, Tom, a bit uneasy about it. I trust Rocksteady completely because they've not let me down with these games so far. I just do hope it is, like you said, Richie, in the vein of storytelling. I felt like Batman playing those games. I was a detective. Yeah. I did my weapon upgrades. I had my relationships. It was dark and it was gritty and gloomy, and I felt like I was at Arkham or in Gotham and such. Obviously, this takes place in Metropolis, but they've said it's a single-player story, but you're totally right. Jumping in and between characters and playing, like we've seen how many times games now they let you play in the shoes of somebody else. We've seen it in Uncharted games and stuff, but as soon as you're detached from that main protagonist, you do kind of stop caring a little bit when you're jumping around. And I'm sure King Shark is super fun to play with and smash stuff up. I'm sure the boomerang mechanics are going to feel amazing, and Deadshot Sniper, you're going to feel like a boss on rooftops. But I did want a hope for just a tight story in that world, and this Suicide Squad agenda, I would much have rather taken a Flash game or a Green Arrow game or an Aquaman game and let me explore other parts of this world with another narrative-driven story. And again, we don't know what it is yet, so we can't. I don't want to criticise too much, and I am excited for it, but I kind of wanted something different.
I would have been happy even with like a Harley Quinn or a Deadshot game. Yeah, I'm playing as the villain, but that could be an interesting perspective. And if you focusing in on one character predominantly, I don't know, for me, just you always seem to get better stories that way.
Either way.
I mean, we are prejudging this quite a lot here.
Yeah, I was going to say either way. Yeah.
We have no idea what this game is.
Yeah, either way, we're just being entitled gamers, aren't we?
This is not exactly what I want. Review bomb it.
Review bomb it. No, super excited in a nutshell. But we laugh, it may not even come to Stadia, so haha, jokes on us.
Well, it's very true. Both of those games haven't even been announced for Stadia. We've had logos for what platforms they're coming out, and at the moment,
we have for Justice League, Suicide Squad, Killer Justice League, but I'm sure on Gotham Knight there wasn't platform logos on the trailer I saw.
Yeah, we've definitely seen PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and PC for Suicide Squad.
Gotham Knight slate for 2021 is due out on PC, PS5, PS4, Series X, and Xbox One.
All right.
We do have logos. I think they came with the gameplay walkthrough.
Okay. I haven't watched that.
But fingers crossed. It would be a really bad loss for Stadia to not get these titles, especially with as we move forward. We all anticipate that once we pass kind of it being around for a year, you would like to think all the new titles come to the platform, because if not, Google aren't doing it right behind the scenes if these titles are just skipped. Because then we start getting in that territory where, do you want to support a platform that's not getting the big games day and day? At what point does it just become a platform for indies? So I think they need to clarify this and do whatever needs to be done behind the scenes, because again, it's not coming out till next year, and the other one the following year. So they have time still, but the longer the marketing goes on.
It's a big third party, non-exclusive, that this is the stuff that you just should have.
Yeah. Like Cyberpunk's great. Yeah. All the EA ones coming across are great sports titles, but we can't look at this as a platform that's doing well if we're not getting big hitters from third party companies like WB. Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah. So everything crossed, gentlemen. Everyone watching and listening along, cross your fingers.
Cross it now.
Hope for the best. But even if it did come to Stadia, they could very quickly remove it from Stadia as well. As we tee off and move on to our next story of the week. A game I didn't expect really to be talking that much about, other than other than it being out this week. As someone who is not an avid golf fan, don't get me wrong, I love a good game of mini golf. I'll take anyone up on the course any day.
He's quite good. It's not fair.
But in terms of real golfers, I suppose this is PGA Tour 2K21 dropped on the store this week to some unexpected fanfare or fervour, we should say. Tom, you were quite vocal on Twitter on this story, so
that's an understatement.
An understatement. So to give everyone do you want to give anyone the rundown on what exactly happened and how this all folded out across the green?
Yeah, so earlier in the week prior to the game actually being released, we received an image from 2K, actually from the official PGA Tour 2K21 Twitter account, clarifying release times globally of when we could expect the game to actually drop. So there was a separate category for some platforms and a category that specifically addressed sort of like the Xbox, Stadia, and PC. And now what I should emphasize at this point is it did specifically say Stadia. And we were given a release time of 5 a.m. and that was on the 21st. So on Friday, just gone, the 21st of August, we should have received the game at 5 a.m. British time. So 5 a.m. rolls around, the game doesn't come out. A few hours go by, the game is still not out. Eventually, 2K support release a tweet that says, sorry to say, but the game will be now coming out at 5 p.m. No explanation why. The game just didn't come out. 5 p.m. rolls around, the game does come out. Only immediately, it's plagued with issues. So the game gets taken away from the store, even though people have purchased it and can't actually play it. They're just presented with the initial loading screen, and then it comes back again. And we go through this like, weird cycle where the game was supposed to have come out, it didn't come out, it then comes out, it then gets taken away. And in the meantime, there's no real communication as to what the hell is going on. No word from Stadia, the official Stadia team. No word from 2K support other than, here it is, now it's gone, now it's back again. And it just felt really, really messy.
Yes.
It's a golf game. It's like, it caused so much discourse. Oh, wow. Yeah.
It seems like someone's fucked up in the background and they're probably not even sure at first what the problem is. So they're probably scrambling trying to fix it.
So problem number one was that it should have said PM on the schedule, not AM, and someone's just got their time. As someone who quite often gets time zones wrong, clearly, it should have probably said PM from the get-go. In terms of communication, I'm right in thinking we got all of this messaging from the PGA Tour Twitter account and not the Stadia account.
Yeah, it wasn't even from 2K. It was from PGA Tour's account. So whoever was the social media manager or the communicator from the actual video game release, essentially.
Okay, interesting.
So it's probably something that Google weren't aware of until people started like getting angry at them. They're probably like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, I mean,
can you someone ring the 2K guys and figure out what's going on?
At the time, I was very sort of up in arms about it. Like there were several of the content creators online very vocal about sort of like the discourse that was going on and being a little bit of finger pointing and blaming going on. I know that Brian over at Club Stadia, he'd scheduled an event to be taking place when the game launched. He'd had a tournament planned. Now, obviously, because of the game not coming out at the time, he then couldn't do that. So that was scrapped. And obviously that just that sort of doesn't really sit well in the mouth. It like doesn't taste very good.
Well, even if you're not making content, it's like you've planned to do something based around the information they're giving you, but they're giving you the wrong information.
Yeah.
It's pretty shoddy.
I think this is where some of the issues stem from, is that a lot of people who are currently invested in Stadia are people who don't really spend a lot of time gaming anyway. But because they don't spend a lot of time gaming, they typically plan what they're going to do with that time. So if something's not there that they were hoping to, it sort of leaves you a little bit disheartened by it.
Yeah, I saw a few things online around like people like gaming as a hobby. People do take time off work even to enjoy these things. If you are a big golf fan and you've been waiting a year for this to come out and you've been excited, and again, we talk up Stadia all the time about having a clear roadmap, because you said, Richie, gaming is an expensive hobby and people like to know when they need to spend their money, when they can. And the benefit we're always told from day one of Stadia is no uploads, instant play anywhere. And then putting on out to the public live at different time zones or the wrong time, and then it's been broken to be pulled with no communication to then go back on. It doesn't. You're right. It doesn't sit well with people, rightly so, because you've hyped something up, right? Imagine if this happened with Avengers next week when it drops on the 4th, not next week, the week after when it drops on the 4th of September. If everybody else on the other platforms, PlayStation, they're playing it because they got the physical edition delivered by Amazon. they downloaded it because you can preload games, remember, on Xbox and PlayStation to be ready to go bang on midnight when that date comes round. Stadia is supposed to alleviate that stress with the game just being there to play, and it disappearing from the store is a very interesting thing to do, to pull it completely. Not even with a placeholder to say we'll be back, maintenance will be back shortly. But you're right, for things like schedule and for Brian and other content creators who not only were they probably looking forward to playing the game at this time because maybe they weren't at work for the day or they took an early afternoon or something like that. It's a curious one, and it's something that definitely needs fixed.
It's a 12-hour time gap that they got wrong in their publishing materials as well. It's entirely possible someone's been at work all day looking forward to getting home, trying this game, getting told no, it doesn't come out till like in the midnight or something, whatever, depending where you're at. It's like, well, that's my evening ruined, really.
I think, let's be real. I'm not going to use this. I'm not going to use this episode of the podcast to stand on it like a soapbox and proclaim, my thoughts about these things. I've been very vocal. That's what I use my Twitter account for.
Yeah.
But I think we can't really become complacent with issues like this because yes, accidents happen, yes, mistakes happen, but we are the consumer of a product, and money talks at the end of the day. If we do not stand up to show our concerns about issues, then these things never really get dealt with. They just sort of get swept under a rug and we move on, and it'll happen again. So I did tweet out to say that, sort of like hypothetically, just imagine that you are waiting for the next game in a series that you're really looking forward to. Let's say that they do announce a new Arkham game, Chris, and they give you a release date for that game. You get to that release date, you go to the shop to pick it up or you buy it digitally, and then you find that the game isn't actually there and it's not going to come out until 12 hours later, or not even 12 hours later. Let's even push that boat out a bit further. It's not going to come out for another week. You're going to probably be a bit pissed off that nobody's communicated that to you. Because you have set time in your life aside to being able to deal with that, in being able to go out of your way to get the game, to want to sit down and play it.
Based on the information they have given you.
Yes. Let's say you book a week off work to actually play. I mean, I'm gonna hold my hands up and say I've done that before for games. I've taken time off work for games. But let's say you take some time off for a game and that game doesn't even come out and nobody even bloody communicates as to why. That can't be acceptable. Like that, under no circumstances can that be acceptable.
It's the base. It's the basic kind of social contract between the game who's selling the game and who's buying. It's like, you tell me when it comes out, I'll give you my money, and it should be there.
Yeah,
it's the absolute basic thing. Is like if you could walk into a supermarket and then pay for some milk, and then they get told, "Oh, we'll deliver the milk in 2 weeks."
Now, again, I'm just going to state at this point that while it wasn't really clear who is at fault here, it does tend to be leaning towards it being 2K's issue as opposed to Stadia as the platform. Stadia, the platform, can't be held responsible for publishers not communicating these things.
I've got a feeling they pushed live the wrong version. Or something.
Potentially. And it could purely have just been a mistake, as Chris said before. It could just have been a 12-hour gap. They went with AM rather than PM. It could just have been that. But then when you roll around to the PM and the game comes out and the game doesn't even work on the platform, it's almost like, well, you even had an extra 12 hours to deal with this, so what the hell are you doing?
Maybe in that 12-hour period, they were planning on uploading the final version of the game, and then someone's got the wires crossed and just pushed it live because of the press release was wrong. There's probably a few minor issues there that have just built up together. Yeah,
but I think you're definitely right, Richie, about it being a social contract, and we rightly so. We are allowed to be upset or angry or unhappy with it all, because any instance in our lives where we do anything, if you don't get what you're told or what you promised, your example there, Tom, I thought you were going to say when you bought the game physically, imagine getting home and the disc isn't there.
And there's a message saying the disc will come in 12 hours.
This will come in 12 hours. Or even just anything. Like, we've all been to a takeaway or a McDonald's and we've got home and opened the bag and the order's wrong, and they've either missed your fries or they've put gherkins on your burger or something like that. Something that you explicitly did not ask for.
How angry do you get when you order a takeaway and say it'll be there in like 40 minutes? then an hour later you still, where's my food? You get so angry.
It's first world problems, right?
It applies across. It is, and I suppose at the end of the day we can sit here and we can be like, but it was only 12 hours and so on. But it's like my personal feeling is like, where do you draw the line? At what point do you say I am pissed off that this has happened? Like. Again, I completely get it. It is just a video game. Yeah. I understand that. It's not like it's the end of the world. But you have to hold someone accountable at some point, because if you do not do that, eventually it could stem to something far worse down the line. It's just as simple as that.
It kind of harks to what probably is the wider issue. Why the hell are we waiting till 5 p.m? Why is it not just out bang on midnight like every other platform?
Yeah.
If I have a game release on the 31st on PlayStation, it's there bang on 0001, if not the minute before, and it's there to play. Why do I have to wait till 5 p.m. of that day? If, like you said, Richie, if I'm off work, what if I wake up early because I want to dig straight into it?
I don't mind that as long as they're clear in the messaging. That's when it comes.
But why 5 p.m?
For me,
that's half the day gone already on launch day. It's like, is Avengers coming out at 5 p.m? Because if I have it on PlayStation, I could be playing that a whole, it's 15 hours earlier and such. So, what's the point in having Stadia with no? Like, Stadia's supposed to alleviate the install and downloads. But fuck it, if I had it at 9 a.m. on PlayStation, it'd be installed and I'd be playing it. So it's ruining the whole concept of play now.
Yeah, it's usually things like come out like 0001 in the morning, like 1 minute past, to make sure that, just to give them that little bit of buffer so they don't accidentally release on the wrong day.
Yeah, it raises more questions, and that's why I did bring it up online as to like who is at fault here, really. But again, as consumers, we're never really going to know the full details of what goes on behind the scenes. The point I want to try and make, just to wrap this one up, is it should have just been communicated. It could have very easily been dealt with by just having somebody saying, we're not ready for launch yet, or just communicate it. Not down the line and then having to pull it and put it out again. It's just frustrating.
It feels like there's a little bit of a fair way to go with this.
We will be back. We will be back. We will return.
I think they need to iron out those kinks a little bit.
There's definitely stuff. Yeah. There's always stuff going on behind the scenes, especially with technology. And off the topic of last week, where we brought to you Apple not playing kind with Epic, and Epic not playing kind with Google, and Google not playing kind with Apple, in a vicious circle of lawsuits, financial turmoil, and not allowing apps being on their system. The story's developed a little bit more, and it turns out Apple, could this be part of the same story, have a cheeky patent, whatever your choice, on 5G cloud gaming as well. So not Stadia specific, but it does link back in with last week's story of them not playing kindly with Epic and being on the App Store, cloud gaming, xCloud and Stadia and such. Just another wrinkle to an already trodden story, right, gentlemen?
Yeah, as we predicted, like, this news actually I think came out on like the Monday, which is like literally just after we finished recording. So I think it just shows how complicated of an issue this can potentially come. I think last week I was largely focusing around, there's a difference between the Apple versus Epic and Epic versus Google stories for me, because I think Apple do have an effective monopoly on the platform, where I don't think Google do.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some interesting things to consider with this whole patent that's been applied for now as well, because we know that Chase over from Stadia Talk and This Week on Stadia, he rightfully tweeted out saying, this actually raises a lot more issues now with the whole lawsuit that's going on with Epic versus Google and Apple as well, because by Apple actually applying for a cloud gaming service and not allowing Google Stadia and not allowing xCloud to actually be on the platform, that's actually essentially denying those services from being available on a platform outright. And then legally, that actually raises further complications, because that's actually then denying those companies profits. So it could be that Apple could essentially be shooting themselves in the foot by doing this. It also then makes me think, who wants to work with Apple in actually releasing games on a cloud service platform with the attitude that they're currently taking?
They've got a huge install base.
They have.
And ultimately, money talks. Like, Epic have enough money to actually go up fight up against them. Most other developers don't, so they'll just in order to access that
Give
install
in.
base, they'll take the 30% cut.
Yeah, it does bring an interesting question about what's actually really going on and whose agenda's what, and there are conversations to be had, but we won't spend that long talking about it because I think it's one of those once you delve deep into the minds of lawsuits and you talk about the size of companies, I can just picture all Mr. Burns' lawyers behind the door in The Simpsons when he's got like all the suits lined up ready to go to town and kick ass on whoever it is. But you're right, Richie. Epic have money too. So they've probably all got if not the best lawyers in the world working at these companies under their banner. It's an interesting war to be fought on many, many fronts, but it's a weird one because then in the flip side of that, being consumer friendly, if it's Apple's storefront, they're right to deny whoever they want. They don't have to play well with these people. So are they just standing ground on that? Do they actually have something in the pipeline in line with Apple Arcade for themselves to think, or
it's going to be an interesting court case, I think, between Apple and Epic because it's that monopoly claim that I think, especially when they've got a patent for like a cloud gaming service, that's even more for Epic to point at and go, look, you're preventing us being on your platform because you've got this coming.
Well, look at what happened with PCs in general. You know, Microsoft got sued because they were pre-installing Internet Explorer and not allowing other options for internet browsers on computers historically. They actually lost that, and now we have the opportunity to select default browsers and so on computers. So it could set a new precedent, really, a new sort of standard for what could be accepted.
It really could. I mean, if we look back at Apple again, back with music, when Apple iTunes was a thing, their digital rights management came in about 2005, and that was one of my main reasons why I moved to Android, because I didn't like the thought of purchasing my music, and I didn't own it. It could only be played on an Apple device, and that's why I had everything on a USB stick and a hard drive, and I just moved stuff from memory card across.
I've never owned like an Apple phone, but it's like things, even the early days when you'd have to use iTunes to transfer your photos across, it's like, but I can just drag and drop. Like, it feels like an unnecessary level of complication.
Yeah, it's gatekeeping your technology, and again, digital rights management sorted that for music. So I think you're totally right, Tom, and this could have repercussions on the industry and going forward with cloud gaming being consumer friendly. Because you're right, they shouldn't have a monopoly if they're this large of a company.
There's a potential of a very interesting precedent getting set in the American courts on this one that could actually force Apple to change up the business practices outside of gaming. Just like I can genuinely see the possibility that Apple are forced to allow a way of installing APKs, like not through their store.
Well, with their security walls, I couldn't see it being that simple, but
it's not. Oh God, this is not going to be simple to do. But I can see the courts
not at all.
No, you do have an effective monopoly on this. That is in breach of this legislation. That is my interpretation.
Yeah,
you need to do something, or more than likely, Apple might see that coming and just settle with Epic outside of court.
I'll see you. I'll see you in court, potentially, but it's definitely one, as I said, to keep our eyes on, and we'll no doubt touch back on the story as it develops further. Though I'm glad probably when we don't have to talk about it for a little bit, because I'm fed up of talking about lawsuits and so. I want games. Give me some fun games to talk about and delve into and enjoy.
We got some games, didn't we, Chris?
We did indeed. Thank you for that, Tom. We did get some games this week. Stealth Drop. Out of nowhere, out of hell itself, Richie. Doom 2016. Doom 2016. The much.
It's finally here.
Like, was it last week?
No more memes.
Was it literally last week we were saying about it being taken away from the actual Google Stadia storefront?
I was tweeting about it saying, it only took me for actually give up on the game ever coming out for it to actually come out.
Yeah, it just stealth dropped. Again, it's one of these weird marketing moves from Stadia. Why wasn't it promoted? Like, why wasn't it promoted? Why wasn't it out before Doom Eternal? Because it was one of the showcase games way back when. And it's just kind of out, albeit at a fantastic price. $14.99 is very, very reasonable. And it's not a sale price, it's the price. Yeah. You'll be happy to hear,
It's worth noting it is currently on sale on other platforms for under like £5. But I do think this is a good price. Full stop.
Full stop. Yeah. But so we got that drop out of nowhere. We saw loads of people jump back in and really start enjoying that game. Spiritfarer also came out this week. That dropped onto the Stadia store. Nice little cartoon aesthetic game where it's Spiritfarer is the one, I'm right in thinking, where you essentially take souls. You're essentially chaperoning souls across to.
Yeah, you basically take on the role of the Spiritfarer of Charon. Yeah, the essentially like the shepherd of the dead. So like you're gathering souls up from around the world, and you're easing the passing to the afterlife. And it's a very relaxing game. It's really easy to play. And it's just something you can sit down and chill to. The sounds, the aesthetic of it, beautiful game, just nice. It's just nice and wholesome, really.
It's a nice game.
It's a nice game. It's wholesome, but it deals with a sort of like a difficult issue of talking about death and an acceptance of loss, really.
Yeah, I read some of the reviews and I saw it actually surprisingly shocked a few of them with how like deep the storytelling getting once you build those relationships with those people you're shepherding across. And then when you actually have to say goodbye to them, when you hand them over to the afterlife, essentially, there's some really touching moments apparently with the characters involved. So nice to see. You love to see it. But yeah, so we've also got some games lined up to be coming out, and one more game that actually came out this week that we haven't covered, and that was Super Hot Mind. No, not Super Hot Mind Control Delete.
Super.
Yeah. So Super Hot is out now, and I think if you bought the game, if you bought Super Hot itself, you can get it for free. I think you have to email the developers. I think that's right.
It's an interesting one. You had to have actually purchased it and not claimed it as a free pro game.
Yeah.
And you basically email your receipt across to the developers, and they'll email you back a code.
Huh.
Yeah.
Easy.
Keep your receipts.
Interesting way of working it, but it sounds effective.
Keep your receipts. Okay, so interesting there. Love a bit of a super hot. I still haven't played it on Stadia because I've got it on VR. So in my mind, it's a VR game. So
I did, and actually at some point I want to go around yours and play it on VR to see if I can see what the difference is.
You are more.
Because I do suspect it'll work a lot better in VR.
Yeah, that's why I haven't touched it, because I enjoy the VR experience with Super Hot. But other games we've got lined up, which I for one am really, really excited about. We've got Windbound on the horizon, the little Zelda-esque looking game, and they've came out thankfully and clarified. Nice bit of reaching out there. The pre-order bonuses and how they land. Tom, you're super hyped for this one, right? Windbound.
Absolutely.
Well? I think we all are actually. It looks awesome.
It's going to be, I'm hoping anyway, it's going to have very much like Legend of Zelda, sort of Breath of the Wild vibes to it, really, mixed with a bit of Wind Waker, a bit of like world exploration, a bit of survival, a bit of crafting. You know, there's a lot to it, and it's been published and worked alongside. I think it's Five Live Studio, which is an Australian-based indie games company, but they're working alongside Deep Silver with this for publication as well, and. We've seen some really good publicity for this so far, and it's coming out on all platforms. So definitely one to watch out for.
Will it be coming out at 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. though?
Let's not.
Let's not. But they have came on. They have clarified that because Stadia doesn't have pre-orders yet officially, but it does for Destiny. It's one of them weird things they probably need to sort out as well.
It's odd that PS4's in with the Stadia category on this.
Yeah,
but it is.
But essentially with the pre-orders, because you can't pre-order it, if you purchase the game within, is it before the 11th?
10th.
The 11th of September.
23:59.
Yeah.
I don't know what time zone that's on though.
Yeah. So
you got 2 weeks basically.
Before, the 10th of September, just basically buy day one. Yeah. And you get the pre-order stuff included with that purchase. So even though you can't pre-order the game, if you buy it in the kind of in the early window, as soon as it's out, you'll get the content, which is it's a nice way to basically just not skip over Stadia and people who didn't pre-order it.
It's nice that the publishers and developers have actually thought about this issue and found a way to address it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely agree.
It's worth also mentioning at this point as well that we do also have a confirmed price for this game as well, so we do know in advance. This has only actually come as far as a reply to a tweet online. I don't think there's anything actually official on that, but the release price for it will be £24.99 British pounds, so £24.99 which converts to, I think it's $29.99 US or $29.99 euros as well.
That sounds perfectly reasonable, to be honest.
It's the same price as Spiritfarer came out. So I'm, again, that's the sort of price I'd expect a brand new, sort of like robust indie title to be around. So I'm very happy with that. Very happy with that.
Good stuff.
Day one purchase.
I might actually finally use my £10 voucher then.
Ooh,
interesting.
Wow.
I might as well, actually.
I want to get it. I want to get it used because there's a lot of smaller games that I've overlooked because I don't want to waste it.
Yeah,
it's not like a £2.79 early access game. That we won't talk about.
Yeah, I saw Rock mention about that, I think, over on Twitter as well, saying about supporting smaller developers in the early access games. We should be giving them the money to encourage them to the platform as such, which rightly so. That £10 I'm sitting on is keeping me refrained from buying it because it's sat there. I have to spend it first.
It's tough. I really don't think
spend
Google
on a game I know it's going to be good.
I don't feel like the Stadia team have fully thought that through when they've given it out, because it's very much been like, you can't avoid using it.
Yeah,
like whatever you buy, it gets. Yeah, definitely.
Just at the checkout, do you want to use a voucher? Tick yes or tick no. It's like, I'll keep it to one side for now. But great to see, and some more games. We should probably find out September's pro games in the coming week as well. You would think maybe.
We do know we get Hitman. We know we get Hitman. We do. Yeah,
we remembered.
Yeah, it's probably Tuesday they announced.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll get some more news from that. Another This Week on Stadia drop as well. That brings us to a wrap for our news stories of the week. There are some little trinkets in there as well, but nothing of much note. Just a couple of bits and pieces. That has been Sounds of Stadia podcast episode 48. Do not forget we also have our lovely post show for our lovely patrons exclusively as well. If you're a big fan of the show, if you've listened to us, if you'd love to support us, we would massively appreciate it. We start off little 79p, $1 a month. I don't know why I paused that. A month? Yeah, $1 a month. Gets you some lovely early access to our post-show content. It goes live on the Monday morning alongside the podcast. For everyone out there who's a lovely listener, follow. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel. You will get the post-show on Wednesday. It drops as well, every Wednesday. This week we are going to be discussing, I haven't even told you two yet, games that are missing in action.
Ooh,
so there are a couple of Stadia games that we're yet to see. And we're going to go talk about it after this show as well. But thank you to everyone who's dropped by, tuned in, watched, followed, and liked us as well. That has been episode 48 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. Thank you always for your continued support. My name's been Chris.
I've been Tom.
I've been Richie.
We've been Sounds of Stadia. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Have a great week in gaming. Go out and enjoy all those fun, delicious titles we've talked about this week. And use your £10 voucher. Yummy. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.